I think I just met the love of my life, and she gave me the wrong change. That's the first thing I said to myself that morning, out loud, standing in the middle of a crowded sidewalk with a half-full cup of cappuccino in my hand and exact change still rattling in my coat pocket. I was the kind of man people saw in magazines but never truly knew. Forbes wrote about me once, the billionaire who started with nothing. And they were right about one thing. I did start with nothing. No father. No inheritance. Just a stubborn heart and a tireless will to prove everyone wrong. I sold cheap Bluetooth speakers out of a van when I was 22. Then, I scaled that into an empire of imported electronics, logistics, and global e-commerce. I built everything alone, warehouse by warehouse, contract by contract, handshake by handshake. And yet, when I went home at night, silence greeted me like an old friend. My name is Vincent Cole. 43. Single. No kids. No pets. No plants. Just marble floors and city views that stretched for miles. I own penthouses in 3 countries. But I couldn't remember the last time I had a conversation that wasn't about profit margins, delivery timelines, or shareholder satisfaction. And still, I kept telling myself, I was okay. Until that Tuesday morning. I'd been driving downtown, thinking about pulling out of a supplier deal in Taiwan. I was irritated, tired, and hungry. I don't usually walk. I send someone. But that day, for reasons I can't explain, I parked my Bentley 3 blocks from my office. I wanted to breathe cold air. And I wandered down a street I hadn't walked in years. That's when I saw her. She was standing behind a tiny, beat-up coffee cart. No brand name, no corporate logo, just a handwritten sign that said, Cappuccino, $3.50, with a smile. Her hair was tucked beneath a navy blue beanie, her cheeks red from the wind, her hands bare as she poured steamed milk into paper cups. And she smiled, not a fake sales smile, but one that seemed to come from somewhere warm, like it knew secrets the rest of us had forgotten. "Hi there," she said when I approached. Her voice was soft, like an old jazz song playing through crackling vinyl. I asked for a cappuccino, even though I don't usually drink coffee. She handed it to me, and I paid. Our hands touched for less than a second, but I felt something. I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm not a romantic. But something shifted. The world stopped humming for a breath. My heart kicked. "Thanks," I said, awkwardly, already starting to walk away. "Wait," she called out, "you gave me an extra $1." She smiled again, holding it out like it was some treasure I'd lost. "No," I replied. "It's for the smile." She laughed, just once, and it felt like sunlight in the middle of December. I didn't go back to the office that day. I wandered the city for hours with that cup of cappuccino, letting it warm my hands while my chest ached in this weird, unfamiliar way. Like hope was waking up inside me after years of sleep. The next morning, I walked the same route. She was there again, early. I asked for another cappuccino. She remembered my name. Vincent, right. I was floored. "I'm Elle," she said, adjusting the strap of her apron. I smiled like an idiot. And for 7 minutes, we talked about nothing, about the weather, about her broken heater, about how the pigeons in this part of town were unusually bold. It was nothing, but it was everything. I started showing up every day. The city became background noise. Her cart became a sanctuary. I never told her who I really was. She thought I worked in tech. I didn't correct her. I didn't want to ruin whatever this was. For once, I didn't want to lead with my bank account. I just wanted to be someone real. But secrets, no matter how noble, always find a way to crack the surface. It was a Wednesday afternoon when my assistant, Olivia, called me in a panic. "Mr. Cole, Page 6 just ran a piece on you. Apparently, someone spotted you buying coffee from a street vendor. They're speculating if it's a viral PR stunt. Should we respond?" I froze. My world, the carefully curated, perfectly contained empire, was starting to bleed into hers. I drove straight to Elle that night, after she'd packed up. She was sitting alone on a bench nearby, sipping something from a thermos, staring up at the city lights. I sat beside her, hands in my coat, trying to figure out how to tell her the truth. Before I could speak, she said, "So, are you gonna tell me who you really are?" My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She pulled out her phone and showed me the headline, "Billionaire buyer, Vincent Cole seen slumming it with coffee vendor cutie." I wanted to die. But instead, I said, "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you. I liked who I was with you. Not him. Just me." She was quiet. Then she said something that split me in two. "You know, I thought I finally met someone who saw me. Not because of what I had or what I could offer, but just me. Turns out, I was the one looking up." "Elle. Don't," she whispered. "Not now. Just, give me space." She got up and walked away. And I sat there, the richest man in the city, feeling more bankrupt than ever. That night, I didn't go back to my office. I didn't answer any calls, didn't open a single email. I just sat in my car outside the park bench where Elle had left me. For the first time in my life, I didn't know what to do. I built empires out of nothing. Negotiated deals across continents. But I couldn't fix this. I went home to my penthouse. You'd think it would comfort me, floor-to-ceiling glass, a skyline that looked like a painting, imported leather furniture that no one ever sat in. But all it did was echo. Echo with her voice. Her laugh. That little crease between her eyebrows when she thought I was being too serious. I poured myself a glass of scotch I didn't want and stood at the window for hours. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I put on jeans. Not designer, not pressed, just jeans. And a plain black jacket. I took the back elevator, snuck past my own doorman, and walked the same 3 blocks to her cart. But it wasn't there. The corner she always stood on looked wrong without her. Just an empty stretch of sidewalk and a wind colder than usual. I waited 15 minutes. Then 30. Then an hour. Nothing. I told myself she was just late. Maybe her van broke down. Maybe she was sick. Maybe she'd show up tomorrow. But she didn't show up the next day either. Or the next. I started spiraling. I searched social media. Looked for permits for street vendors. Even sent one of my assistants to pretend to be doing city research and ask around. Nothing. Elle was gone. And I didn't even know her last name. That realization hit harder than anything else. I had fallen in love with a woman I didn't even really know. And yet, I knew everything that mattered. The way she crinkled her nose when she sipped something too hot. How she hummed old songs when she cleaned up. The way she remembered everyone's name, even the homeless man who stopped by every morning for a free cup. She was good. She was kind. She was rare. And I'd ruined it. It took a week before I finally pulled myself together enough to go to work. Olivia greeted me at the door with a stack of updates. Contracts, investment briefings, urgent emails. I nodded, took the folder, and headed for my office. But I couldn't focus. Every spreadsheet blurred into a fog. Every voice on every call sounded hollow. At noon, Olivia came in again, hesitating at my door. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Fine." She tilted her head. "You've rescheduled the board twice. People are starting to ask if you're distracted." I sighed. "Tell them I'm thinking of expanding." "Into coffee," she smirked. I looked up, surprised. "What?" She smiled faintly. "It's a guess. You've been different since that story broke." I swallowed hard. "She's gone. Gone. Disappeared. I don't know where. Or why." Olivia sat down across from me, her professional mask softening. "Maybe she just needed to know you were being honest. You weren't hiding. You were afraid. That's human, Vincent. Maybe she needed time. Time doesn't help if she's vanished off the map." There was a silence between us, the kind that felt like truth hovering. Then she said something I didn't expect. "Find her. Not with money, not with power. Just, go find her. Like a man who cares, not a CEO trying to fix a problem." I stared at her. Olivia had worked for me for 7 years. She'd never spoken to me like that before. But she was right. And I knew exactly where to start. I went back to the bench where Elle had sat that last night. I stayed there for an hour, just thinking. Then I started walking. Block by block, street by street. It took me 3 more days. On the 3rd day, I spotted an old man with a limp pushing a cart of newspapers. I remembered him. Elle once told me she gave him coffee every morning. I approached him, offered him $100 for a minute of his time. He squinted at me. "You're the rich guy, ain't ya?" I blinked. "Excuse me." "From the news. The one who fell for the coffee girl." I nodded. "Yes. Do you know where she went?" He scratched his chin. "Name's Elle, right? Sweet girl. Said she had to take care of her sister in Jersey. Something about her losing the house. Elle packed up real sudden. Gave me her cart. Told me to sell it or use it. Said she didn't know when, or if, she'd be back. My heart ached. Do you know where in Jersey?" He shook his head. "Didn't say. But she left this." He reached into his coat and handed me a folded napkin. On it, scribbled in black ink, were 4 words. "Don't come find me." I stood there, holding that napkin like it was a piece of her soul. Most people would have stopped there. But I couldn't. She could say "don't find me" all she wanted, but my heart wasn't listening. Because the truth was, I wasn't chasing her out of guilt or loneliness. I was chasing her because, for the first time in my life, I'd found something I couldn't buy. And I wasn't letting it slip away. So I cleared my schedule. Put a trusted VP in charge. Hopped in my car and drove through Jersey, searching every neighborhood coffee shop, flea market, roadside stand. I followed whispers. Clues. Until I found her. And when I did, she was wearing a thrift store sweater, helping a woman in a wheelchair pick out canned goods in a dollar store. Her hair was pulled back in a braid. Her eyes were tired. But she was still Elle. Still kind. Still beautiful. I didn't approach her right away. I watched from behind a shelf, heart pounding. She looked up and froze. Our eyes met. And I whispered, "You left your cart." "You left your cart," I said again, softer this time, because my throat was so tight I could barely speak. Elle just stood there, frozen, one hand on a can of tomatoes, the other hanging loosely at her side like she had no idea what to do with it anymore. "I told you not to come," she finally said. Her voice wasn't angry, but it wasn't warm either. It was tired. Resigned. Like she'd already rehearsed this conversation a dozen times in her head, but never actually believed it would happen. "I know," I said, taking a step closer, careful not to startle her like some wild creature that might run. But I had to. She shook her head slowly. "Why? What's the point?" "Because I wasn't finished," I said, and it came out more desperate than I intended. "You walked away before I could say what mattered." She laughed then, but there was no joy in it. "Vincent, whatever this was between us, it was real, sure, but it existed in a bubble. A fantasy. You don't know what my life really looks like. You saw coffee and smiles and a pretty face. But you didn't see the hard parts. The messy parts." "Then show me," I said without hesitation. "I'm not afraid of mess." She studied me for a moment, like she didn't believe me, like she wanted to, but couldn't risk being wrong. Then, finally, she nodded toward the front of the store. "I finish in 10 minutes. If you still want to talk, I'll be out back." And just like that, she turned away. I waited outside in the cold, pacing behind a cracked dumpster and a stack of broken pallets, trying to rehearse the words I'd been carrying for days. But when she stepped out that back door, hands tucked into her coat, hair falling loose around her face, everything in my mind vanished. "Elle," I started. "No speeches," she interrupted, lifting a hand. "Just talk to me. Like a person." So I did. I told her everything. About how empty my life felt the day she stopped showing up. About how I hadn't realized what I was missing until it was ripped away. About how I searched for her, not because I wanted to fix her life, but because I couldn't imagine going back to mine without her in it. "I've built this empire," I said, but for what? To impress strangers. To buy more glass towers I don't even sleep in. Elle, you gave me 7 minutes of your morning for 3 weeks, and it was the best part of my day, every day. That means something. That has to mean something. Her eyes shimmered, but she blinked the tears away fast. You don't understand. I didn't just disappear for dramatic effect. My sister, Madeline, she lost her house. Her husband walked out and left her with 3 kids and nothing in the bank. I had to help. And I couldn't drag you into that. That's not your burden. Why not? I asked gently. Why does it have to be just yours? She looked away. Because men like you don't stay. They get bored. They get uncomfortable. They run when things get hard or ugly. And I couldn't survive that again. Again. That word hung in the air like a gunshot. I stepped closer. Who hurt you? She laughed bitterly. Does it matter? I don't tell that story to strangers. I'm not a stranger. You're not a boyfriend either, she said flatly. We never even went on a real date, Vincent. We drank coffee and flirted on a street corner. That's not a foundation for anything. I nodded slowly. She wasn't wrong. But she wasn't entirely right either. Okay, I said. Then let's start over. Right now. From the beginning. She raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Hi, I said, extending my hand like an idiot, I'm Vincent. I drink coffee now, apparently. I'm terrible at casual conversations, and I'm still learning how to be a human instead of a CEO. But I like you. A lot. And I'd like to take you to dinner. Or lunch. Or anywhere, really. Your call. She stared at my hand. Then, slowly, she took it. Her grip was soft, but steady. I'm Elle. I sell coffee, or used to. I'm really tired. And I don't know what I want right now. That's okay, I said. We can figure it out together. That first dinner wasn't glamorous. She insisted on a local diner, plastic menus, cracked vinyl booths, the kind of place where the ketchup bottle is always sticky. But it was perfect. We talked about everything. Her childhood. Mine. Her dreams of opening a real cafe one day. My fear that I'd built a life too big for anyone to fit into. We laughed. A lot. She had this way of grounding me. Of making the noise fade. But she also had walls, tall, thick ones, and every time I thought I was getting close, she pulled back. A week passed. Then 2. I kept showing up. I helped her sister find temporary housing. Paid off some medical bills without Elle knowing at first. Not because I wanted credit. Just because I couldn't stand seeing her suffer while I had the means to help. When Elle found out, she was furious. You had no right, she yelled, slamming the door of her tiny apartment. I didn't do it to control you, I said. I did it because I care. That's the problem, she cried. You think you can fix everything with money. But what happens when that runs out? What happens when I'm the one who needs fixing? I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything. She turned away, her voice cracking. Every man who's ever promised to stay, left. I just thought maybe, you were different. I walked over slowly. Gently. I am. She didn't look at me. So I kept going. I don't care about perfect. I don't care about messy. I care about you. Even when you're angry. Even when you push me away. I care because you made me feel something I didn't think I'd ever feel again. Not just love, hope. And I won't walk away from that. Not now. Not ever. Silence. Then a sob. Just one. Then she turned and fell into me, arms wrapping around my chest like she'd been holding herself together for far too long. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't going to be easy. But it was going to be worth it. Elle didn't say, I forgive you, that night. She didn't say, I love you either. But she let me stay. That was a start. She curled up next to me on her small couch, head on my chest, legs pulled beneath her, as if she were trying to make herself disappear into me. I didn't speak. I just held her. For once in my life, silence didn't make me uncomfortable. It felt right. The room was dim, lit only by the flickering light of an old lamp with a crooked shade. Her sister Madeline's apartment was cramped and smelled faintly of baby powder and old pasta, but it was filled with warmth. The kind of warmth my penthouse never had. There were toys scattered across the floor. School papers tacked to the fridge with alphabet magnets. A cracked family photo of Madeline and her 3 kids on the wall. It wasn't polished or perfect. But it was lived in. Real. This was her world. Not mine. And for the first time, I didn't want to run back to mine. Over the next few weeks, I became part of their routine, though Elle resisted it every step of the way. I drove the kids to school once when Madeline had a doctor's appointment. I helped fix a broken cabinet door. I even stood in line at a dollar store holding 12 boxes of macaroni and cheese while a toddler screamed about gummy bears 2 aisles over. I wasn't used to this kind of life. I didn't belong in this kind of chaos. But I tried. God, I tried. There was one night when the youngest kid, Ella, named after Elle, I later learned, came down with a fever. Madeline was working a night shift, so Elle and I took turns holding her, changing damp towels, whispering reassurances. At 3 a.m., I found Elle in the kitchen, eyes red, heating up tea she'd probably forget to drink. "You okay?" I asked softly. She gave me a tired nod. "This isn't your life, Vincent. You don't have to do this." I leaned against the counter. "I know. But I want to." She looked at me like she didn't quite believe me. "Why?" "Because I've had everything. Money. Power. Influence. But I've never had this, being needed. Being trusted. Being real." She set down the mug and sighed. "You don't know what it's like to grow up fighting for every dollar, every meal, every breath." I still jump when the phone rings, scared it's more bad news. I still sleep in my shoes sometimes when I'm too tired to dream. I stepped closer. "Then let me be someone you don't have to fight." I moved slower after that. I stopped pushing. I let Elle set the pace. Some days, she was warm and open. Others, she retreated behind emotional walls so high I couldn't see over them. But I stayed. Eventually, she let me take her on a real date. Not a 5-star restaurant. Not some rooftop with a violinist. Just a quiet picnic in a city park. We had sandwiches, sparkling water, and a slice of cheesecake we ate with plastic forks. She laughed more that day than I'd ever seen. She told me stories about high school, how she once sang in a band that never performed, how she wanted to be a teacher before life veered off course. I told her how I was always the serious kid, the one who never got invited to parties, the one who was too busy making deals at 15. She smiled and said, "You were probably born in a suit." I looked down at my sweater. "Do I get points for dressing like a real person today?" She leaned her head on my shoulder. "You get points for trying." We sat there as the sun dipped behind the buildings, turning the sky pink and gold. I wanted to freeze that moment. Live in it. Bottle it. But real life doesn't work that way. A week later, Madeline got sick. "Nothing serious at first, just a cold," she said. But it lingered. Then worsened. A doctor's visit turned into a hospital stay. The tests revealed something far worse than we'd imagined. Leukemia. Elle broke down in the hallway while I held her up. "She's all I have left." She raised me when our mom disappeared. She gave up everything for those kids. And now, she couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Madeline started treatment immediately, but it wasn't easy. Elle took over everything: school runs, bills, doctor visits, meals. I offered to hire help, but she refused. "They're my family," she said. Not a problem to outsource. But the weight of it was too much. I watched her unravel, slowly, silently, like a thread pulled loose from a sweater. She tried to be strong, but her eyes grew darker, her voice tighter. I'd come by with groceries, and she'd forget to answer the door. I'd bring takeout, and she'd say she wasn't hungry, though I knew she hadn't eaten all day. One night, I found her sitting on the floor of the laundry room, hugging her knees, crying into her hands. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't be everything for everyone." I knelt beside her. "Then don't. Let me help." She looked at me, eyes full of guilt. "This isn't fair to you." "I don't care about fair. I care about you." She leaned into me then, fragile as glass. And I held her like something precious, something breakable. A few days later, I told her I had a surprise. We drove out of town, past the strip malls and fast food joints, into a quiet neighborhood near the edge of a forest preserve. I parked in front of a modest one-story house with a small porch and white shutters. "What is this?" she asked. "It's for you." "For Madeline." "For the kids." "Rent-free, no strings. Just peace." She stared at the house like it might vanish if she blinked. "You bought us a house. I bought you space to breathe." She covered her mouth with her hand. "I can't accept this, Vincent. It's too much." "It's not too much. It's not even close to what you deserve." Tears spilled from her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I love you." I hadn't planned to say it then. It just slipped out, raw and trembling. She froze. And for a moment, I was terrified. But then she said, almost inaudibly, "I think I love you too." We moved into the house the next week. Madeline's treatments continued, but now she had a room with sunlight and quiet. The kids had a backyard and beds of their own. And Elle finally slept through the night. Sometimes I'd wake up and find her in the kitchen, sipping tea, looking out the window. "This feels like a dream," she said once. "It's not. It's real. You're real." She looked at me then, and for the first time, there was no hesitation in her eyes. Only hope. But hope, I would learn, is fragile. And sometimes, just when you think you've found peace, the past finds you instead. The knock came on a Tuesday afternoon. Elle was in the backyard helping the youngest draw on the pavement with chalk, while I sat at the kitchen table, half distracted by a spreadsheet on my laptop and the soft echo of children's laughter outside. For once, everything felt still. Calm. Then, 3 sharp knocks. Not the lazy tap of a neighbor. Not the polite rhythm of a delivery. This knock was decisive. Intentional. The kind that tells you trouble wears a face and it's waiting just outside your door. I opened it. And there he was. A man in his early 40s, tall, lean, with sharp eyes and a smirk that made my stomach twist. His black leather jacket was too clean, like it had never seen real wear. He had the look of someone who survived by talking his way out of every bad situation he created. "Vincent King," he said like it was a challenge. "Fancy meeting you here." I stared. "Do I know you?" "No, but I know her." He tilted his chin toward the backyard. "Elle." I didn't say anything. I just stepped forward, blocking his view of the house. His grin widened. "Relax. I'm not here to cause trouble. Just thought it was time I reintroduced myself. I'm Noah." He extended a hand. I didn't take it. He dropped his hand, amused. "Elle's ex. The one who vanished." Surprise, I'm back. I felt the ground shift beneath me, but I didn't flinch. "You need to leave." He raised his eyebrows. Touchy. "Look, I'm not trying to mess things up. I just want to see her. Catch up. Maybe meet my daughter." I blinked. "What?" He nodded toward the backyard again. "Ella. The little one with the curls. She's mine." A slow, cold silence filled my head. 1,000 puzzle pieces slammed together, and none of them fit. She told me her ex left. Walked out. Said nothing. "Oh, I did," he chuckled. "Told her I wasn't ready for the whole diapers and bills thing. Big dreams, you know. Didn't work out. But I figured, maybe it's time to come home. I've changed. She doesn't want you here. Let her tell me that." And before I could stop him, he pushed past me and stepped into the living room, peering through the glass doors. "Elle," he called out, waving like they were old friends who hadn't missed a beat. She turned at the sound of her name, then froze, her face draining of all color. It took her 3 seconds to process it. Then she grabbed Ella, held her tight, and stormed back inside, lips pressed into a line, eyes flashing with fire. "Noah," she said coldly. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Just visiting," he said casually. "Wanted to see you. Maybe talk." She placed Ella down gently, then sent her upstairs with the older kids. Her hands were shaking. "You don't get to visit the people you abandoned." He shrugged. "People change." "Not you," she hissed. "You vanish when it matters. You lie. You take. And now you think you can just show up. I'm her father, Elle. You don't get to say that." I'd never seen her like this before. She was pure steel, rigid, protective, ready to burn everything down to keep her daughter safe. But behind that, I could see the fear in her eyes. Noah smiled. "You kept her from me. You don't think that's gonna come back to bite you? Legally, I mean." I stepped forward. "You want to threaten her? In this house? That's bold." He turned to me with mock sympathy. "I bet you think you know her. Bet you think you're the hero in all this. But you're not. You're just the latest guy trying to rescue a woman who doesn't want to be saved." Elle's voice cut through the tension. "Get out." He paused for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll be back," he said. "With a lawyer." And just like that, he left. Elle collapsed into a chair, her head in her hands. I knelt in front of her, heart pounding. "Is it true?" "About Ella?" She didn't answer right away. Her silence screamed. "Elle." "I never wanted to lie," she whispered. "But I had to." "Talk to me." She raised her eyes, red and glassy. "When Noah left, I was pregnant. He knew. He told me to get rid of it. Said he wasn't interested in being a father. Then he disappeared. I didn't want to put his name on the birth certificate. I didn't want her to grow up knowing she was unwanted. So I did it all myself. And when I met you..." She broke off. "You were the first person who made me feel like maybe I wasn't damaged goods. I didn't tell you because I was afraid. Afraid that if I showed you the real version of me, the one with all the baggage, you'd walk away." "I'm still here," I said. "But you're angry." "I'm not," I said quietly. "I'm scared. For you. For Ella. What if he's serious? What if he really tries to fight for custody?" She shook her head. "He won't. He doesn't have the patience. He wants control, not responsibility. He'll make noise, but he'll disappear again." I wanted to believe her. But something about the way Noah had looked at her, at us, told me he wasn't done. Over the next week, the tension seeped into every corner of our lives. Elle tried to keep things normal, but she was jumpy. Always checking the locks, glancing over her shoulder. Madeline, still recovering, tried to help with the kids, but she was too weak to do much. I hired a lawyer. Quietly. Just in case. Then came the papers. A formal request for visitation rights. Elle broke down the night they arrived. She sobbed in my arms, her entire body trembling like she'd been holding herself together with duct tape and prayers. "I can't let him near her," she whispered. "I won't." "You won't have to," I said. "We'll fight this." She looked at me, hollow and tired. "He's going to drag everything out. My past. My mistakes. I don't have your resources, Vincent. I can't win." "Yes, you can. Because you have me now." She pulled away then, suddenly and sharply. "That's the problem," she said. "I do have you. And it's not fair." I was stunned. "What are you talking about? You're risking everything for me, for my mess. Your reputation, your time, your peace of mind. You didn't sign up for this. I chose this." She shook her head. "You chose a version of me that doesn't exist anymore." My chest tightened. "Don't do this. Don't push me away because you're scared." "I'm not scared," she whispered. I'm broken. And I won't let you break with me. She stood, walked upstairs, and closed the bedroom door behind her. And just like that, I was alone in a house full of love that suddenly felt cold. I stayed that night. Slept on the couch. Woke up before the sun and sat in the silence. I thought about everything, about the empire I had built and how meaningless it seemed without her. About Ella's giggle, and the way she ran to me when she scraped her knee. About Elle's laugh, the curve of her smile, the fire in her eyes when she protected what she loved. I wasn't walking away. Not this time. But I also realized something I hadn't before. Love wasn't enough. Sometimes, love needed help. And I was going to find it, even if it meant going up against Noah myself. I thought I had seen the worst the world could throw at a person: hostile takeovers, betrayal from business partners, markets crashing overnight. But nothing prepared me for family court. It didn't care about emotions. It didn't care about who was good or bad. It cared about what could be proven. And that was what terrified me the most, because Noah, the man who abandoned Elle and their daughter, had suddenly decided to become a saint. He showed up to the first hearing clean-shaven, wearing a pressed shirt, flanked by a lawyer who practically dripped arrogance. He smiled like the past was water under the bridge, like we were all just one big misunderstanding away from a happy ending. Elle sat next to me, shoulders tense, hands clenched in her lap. She didn't speak unless addressed. I could tell she was trying not to cry, trying not to scream. Noah's lawyer made it sound like we were the selfish ones. That Elle was keeping a father from his daughter out of spite. That I had somehow pressured her into hiding Ella's existence. It was absurd. Twisted. And worst of all, the judge didn't seem surprised. Just bored. After the hearing, Elle said nothing. We walked to the car in silence. When I opened the door for her, she finally spoke. "He's going to win, isn't he?" "No," I said. But my voice wasn't as firm as I wanted it to be. She got in the car, staring out the window. "I shouldn't have let you get involved." I started the engine. "Stop saying that. You're losing sleep, spending money, putting your reputation on the line, for me. For a battle that I brought on. I'd do it again. But you shouldn't have to." I turned to her. "Elle, listen to me. I want to fight for you. I want to fight for us. If I lose every dollar I have and still come home to you, I'll consider it a win." Her eyes met mine, and for the first time in days, she softened. "I don't know how I survived without you," she whispered. I reached across the console and took her hand. "You'll never have to find out again." We dove into preparation. Elle's past was carefully documented, every school report, every paycheck, every daycare invoice. We assembled testimonials from friends, co-workers, Madeline. My legal team pulled everything they could find on Noah: his criminal record, past due child support from a previous child he never mentioned, drug charges that were sealed but leaked with the right pressure. It was messy. Painful. Necessary. But through it all, something unexpected happened. We became closer. Elle and I weren't just lovers anymore, we were partners, teammates, co-defendants in a war we didn't start but refused to lose. We spent late nights reviewing documents, taking turns calming Ella when she had nightmares, sharing quiet moments of laughter over coffee that wasn't burnt for once. One evening, as I watched her braid Ella's hair while humming softly, I realized I had never loved anyone the way I loved her. Not with fire. With roots. Then came the home visit. A court-appointed social worker named Lisa, mid-50s, gentle voice, clipboard always in hand, arrived unannounced on a Thursday morning. Elle panicked at first, trying to clean everything at once, hiding dishes, wiping fingerprints from glass, picking up toys. But Lisa was kind. Observant. She asked Ella simple questions: who helps you with homework? What's your bedtime story? What do you do when you're scared? And then she asked Elle and me, separately, why we thought Noah shouldn't have rights. I told her everything. Calmly. Respectfully. But I didn't sugarcoat it. Noah walked away when Elle needed him most. He's here now because he wants control, not connection. He's doing this to punish Elle, not to be a father. And Ella doesn't even know him. If you give him visitation, you're putting a stranger into a child's life and calling it justice. Lisa nodded, scribbled notes, and thanked me. Before she left, she turned and looked around the house, at the crayon drawings on the fridge, the half-finished puzzle on the coffee table, the family photo we'd taken at the park. "You seem like a very loving household," she said. A week passed. Then 2. Every day felt like waiting for a bomb to go off. Every phone call made my heart race. I was supposed to be negotiating a major supplier contract during that time, something that could have brought in millions, but I postponed it. My team was furious. I didn't care. Let the empire burn. Because all I could think about was what would happen if that judge handed Ella over to a man who saw her as a trophy instead of a daughter. Elle was quiet again. Withdrawn. I'd catch her watching Ella sleep, brushing her hair off her face, memorizing her like she was afraid she'd be taken. One night, I found her in the living room, holding a photo of Madeline and the kids. Her eyes were glassy. "She gave up everything for me," she whispered. "Now I might lose everything I've built." "You haven't lost anything." "Not yet." I knelt beside her. "I won't let him take her. Even if I have to go public. Even if it becomes a scandal." She looked at me, startled. "You'd risk your name for me?" "I'd burn my entire legacy to the ground if it meant protecting you." She kissed me then. Soft. Fierce. Full of fear and gratitude and love. The decision came on a rainy Friday afternoon. We were all called back to the courthouse. The judge, an older woman with eyes like stone, read the statement flatly, without emotion. "Noah Jacobs is granted supervised visitation under the court's discretion. All visitation will occur in the presence of a licensed third-party guardian. Full custody remains with the mother." The words hit Elle like a wave. She exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. Her hand gripped mine so tight I thought she might never let go. Noah, sitting a row ahead of us, turned around. He smirked. "This isn't over," he muttered. "It is for you," I said. He left the courtroom alone. Again. Later that night, we sat on the porch of the little house, watching the rain beat across the wooden railing. The kids were asleep. Madeline was doing better. Life was breathing again. Elle turned to me, a blanket around her shoulders. "I don't deserve you." I touched her cheek. "You deserve the world. You gave up everything for me." "No. I chose everything for us." She looked down. "I never believed in soulmates. Never thought I'd find someone who would fight beside me." I smiled. "Well, I never believed I'd fall in love with a woman selling coffee in the rain." She laughed through her tears. "You did though. And I'd do it again." She rested her head on my shoulder. We didn't need a wedding. Or titles. Or grand promises. We had something deeper now, something earned. A love weathered by storms, tempered by struggle, held together not by perfect circumstances but by relentless choice. And as the night deepened and the world quieted around us, I made her one silent vow. I would protect this family with everything I had. Even if it meant giving up the man I used to be. Some people think the end of a story is where everything gets tied up in a neat little bow. But real life doesn't work like that. Real life doesn't care about perfect resolutions. Real life gives you jagged edges, soft landings, and unexpected new beginnings. That's what this was, our beginning. Months passed after the court ruling. Noah tried once or twice to stir the waters again, but the supervised visits wore him out quickly. He didn't show up to the third one. Or the fourth. By the sixth, the supervisor reported he'd moved out of state. Again. And just like that, the storm that nearly tore us apart vanished like a bad dream. But its impact remained. Elle was different after it all. Still kind. Still soft around the kids. Still funny in the quietest ways. But something in her had hardened. Like a survivor walking barefoot through fire, she had burns, but she'd learned how to walk anyway. One night, while I was putting Ella to bed, she asked me, "Are you my daddy now?" I blinked. Her tiny voice hit me harder than any judge, any ex, any courtroom fight. "I love you like you're mine," I said honestly. "But if you want me to be your daddy, that's your choice." She hugged me, so tight her little arms shook. You already are. I sat there beside her bed long after she fell asleep, staring at the ceiling, trying to make peace with the ache in my chest. The ache of having never known this kind of love before. The ache of almost losing it. The ache of finally being home. Elle and I didn't rush things. After everything, we'd learned patience. We moved in together slowly, blending our routines, making sure the kids felt safe, heard, steady. Madeline returned to her job part-time. She still tired easily, but her fire came back. One morning over breakfast, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "If you ever hurt my daughter, I will end you." I laughed, but she didn't. I nodded. Understood. We found a rhythm, this strange, chaotic, beautiful rhythm that no corporate retreat or boardroom meeting ever taught me. I started working less. That shocked everyone. For years I had been the man who never missed a call, who worked through holidays, who built empires in his sleep. Now. I picked up Ella from school. I learned how to braid hair, badly, but I tried. I made pancakes on Sundays and burned half of them. I let the dog on the couch. I laughed more. And the strangest part? My business didn't fall apart. Turns out, the empire didn't need me 24/7. But my family did. And I finally realized, I would rather be a present man than a powerful one. One quiet winter morning, Elle and I took a walk before the kids woke up. The snow was fresh, untouched, glittering beneath the sunrise like a field of diamonds. She tucked her arm into mine, head against my shoulder. We didn't speak for a while. Just walked. Then she said, "I've been thinking." "That's dangerous," I teased. She smiled. "It is. But I was thinking about something you said a while back." "What's that?" "That I deserved the world." "You do." She stopped, turning toward me. Her breath curled in the cold air. "I don't want the world," she said. "I want this. You. Ella. The mess. The quiet. The peace." I looked at her, the woman who once handed me coffee with shaking hands, who became my whole reason for coming home every day, who fought like hell to protect her child, who taught me what love really looked like when it wasn't dressed in suits and glass towers. And in that moment, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small, simple box. Her eyes widened. "What?" "I was going to wait," I said. "Maybe plan something dramatic. But nothing feels more real than this moment. So I'm going to ask you now." I opened the box. A single ring. No diamonds. Just gold. Just us. Elle. Will you marry me? She stared, eyes brimming. Then she laughed. A beautiful, breathless laugh that melted the frost between us. "You idiot," she said, tears falling. "Of course I will." We didn't have a fancy wedding. No press. No designer dresses or curated guest lists. We married in the backyard of our home. Just the kids, Madeline, a few close friends. Ella was the flower girl. She threw more petals on the guests than down the aisle. Elle wore a dress she'd found in a thrift store. I wore the same suit I'd worn the day I closed my first business deal, back when I thought that was the happiest day of my life. It wasn't. This was. After we said, "I do," the kids sprayed us with silly string, and the dog stole a slice of cake. Madeline cried the entire time, then blamed it on allergies. Later that night, after everyone had gone, Elle and I stood on the back porch again. Just us. Just quiet. She turned to me, her fingers laced with mine. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "Miss what?" "The old life. The power. The control. The empire." I thought for a second. Then I smiled. "No," I said. "I don't miss being king of a lonely castle. Sometimes I think about the men I used to be. The men who built walls instead of bridges. The men who thought love was something that happened to other people. The men who mistook success for fulfillment. I don't judge him. He survived the best he could. But I'm not him anymore. Because one rainy morning, I stopped for coffee. And the woman who handed me that cup, tired, kind, fighting 1,000 battles, handed me something else without knowing it. She handed me a second chance at life. A better one. A real one. And now? Now I wake up every morning to a life I didn't know how to dream about. A house full of laughter. Sticky fingers. Burnt toast. Scribbles on walls. Quiet kisses in the hallway. Late night talks under blankets. A child calling me daddy like it's the most natural thing in the world. I still work, sure. But it's not my life anymore. They are. Ella. The family I never knew I needed. And as I sit here, telling you all of this, I don't need applause. I don't need admiration. I just need you to believe that people like me can change. That men who spent years in silence can learn to love loudly. That broken people can build something whole. Because if someone like me, lonely, closed off, buried in numbers, can find a heart that finally feels like home, then maybe, just maybe, there's hope for all of us. Even the ones who used to walk alone.